Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the WICR studio in the La Penta Student Union building on the campus of Iona College. We are back for another episode of Sports Universe alongside co-host Brendan Eckstein. I'm Jack Osterloff. Brendan, how are you today?
I'm really good. I'm excited to talk about some NFL.
I'm glad to be back. We're going to dive into a little bit of Week 8 NFL predictions, previews, recap of a couple big-time events that have happened since the last time we've been on the air. Starting off with Jets-Bears, Sunday at 1 o'clock, the CBS marquee game of the week. Nance and Romo on the call. What are your thoughts, Brendan?
Honestly, I'm seeing Bear Country going crazy this weekend. I think they're going to run all over the Jets. The Jets are a team that's coming off a terrible offensive performance, let alone they did face a good defensive team last week in Minnesota. But, they're on the road, right? They're at Soldier Field.
They are on the road. Yep.
On the road with a rookie quarterback, the way things have been going, I don't see any hope for the Jets.
I would have to agree with you. Not only do the Jets have a lot of injuries on both sides of the ball, coming out today, it looks like they're going to be without their top two wide receivers and Quincy Enunwa and Robbie Anderson, as well as their starting center, Spencer Long, seems to be out as he's ailing with a finger and a knee issue. On the defensive side of the ball, it looks like Marcus May will miss his second straight game after suffering a broken thumb in the loss to, what game was that? Jacksonville. Morris Claiborne is questionable. Jermaine Johnson is doubtful. Things are not looking good on the injury side for the Jets, but in order for the Jets to have a chance in this game, I feel like they're going to have to control the game, run the ball a little bit, make the game simple for Sam Darnold, and ultimately slow down Khalil Mack.
I'm thinking also contain Tariq Cohen. Over the past few weeks, Tariq Cohen's been just a lightning bolt on offense. And the problem with the Jets is they've been giving up, a lot of rushing yards to no-name running backs.
I would have to agree with that. Over the past, I'd say, decade, I want to say, the Jets have been incapable, it seems like, of covering a running back out of the backfield.
Yeah.
Guys like James White, a guy like Tariq Cohen, as you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Those kind of guys kill the Jets, and that's why we brought Darren Lee into the system. Darren Lee has done a capable job of covering running backs. I think that this week is a true test for him to see how he matches up with such an elusive speed back like Cohen.
No, this is the kind of week I look at in general in Todd Bowles. We look to the future. We're saying, okay, we have a rookie quarterback. We understand that. But if you don't see any progression this week, if we take a second step back in Sam Darnold's development, he had an atrocious game. And then if the defense, which is his specialty on top of it, can't do their jobs, and I'm not saying they have to be perfect, but you cannot be embarrassed every week.
I'd have to agree with that. We'll see what happens Sunday at 1. Moving on to the marquee Fox game of the week, Packers-Rams. Rams looking to go 8-0. Packers looking to stay alive within the NFC North battle. Rodgers, after a bye week, seems to have his knee fully healthy. Jared Goff, locked and loaded, ready to go. Brendan, what do you think?
I'm thinking Jared Goff is going to have a field day. The Packers secondary has been not so great this year. Goff's having a fantastic year. I'd even put him in the MVP talks this early. When a team's 7-0, looking to go 8-0 with a young coach, the quarterback's rolling, the defense is rolling, this isn't really even a test for Rodgers, I'd say, this week. I'd say this is a test for Mike McCarthy. You're going to look out. Who do you think the Packers are going to side with at the end of the day, at the end of the season? Another, no playoff season. I think that's McCarthy's head.
I have to agree with that. On the flip side, you had mentioned Jared Goff being in the MVP conversation. I would have to agree, but I also think you have to give credit where credit is due. And if we're talking MVPs of the Rams, you got to be talking about Todd Gurley and Aaron Donald as well. Todd Gurley leading the NFL in touchdowns with 14 touchdowns through 7 weeks. And Aaron Donald with a whopping 9 sacks. Two guys, I think, arguably the most dominant players on each side of the ball in the NFL. But I think that this is going to be a lot closer of a game than people expected to be. I think that the Packers, with such a long time to prepare for this game, coming off of a bye week, they're going to have 2+ weeks to prepare for this Rams team that they've been watching film on. I think Mike McCarthy is a pretty good coach, and I think he's going to have a good scheme out there, and I think it's going to be a shootout and one that's going to be a game of the year, maybe possibly.
I would say make or break though for the Packers. Obviously this is a fantastic team they're going against, but you want to build momentum. You want to throw your name into a playoff race. This is the perfect platform to do it.
I would have to agree with that. Moving on from the 4 o'clock game, you got the marquee Sunday night matchup: New Orleans Saints versus Minnesota Vikings. 2 elite teams in the NFC. Drew Brees doesn't seem to miss a step ever, and Kirk Cousins seems to be getting in a nice mesh in his new system in Minnesota. Adam Thielen is thriving. Stephon Diggs, possibly the best wide receiver duo in the NFL. What are your thoughts?
I'd say those receivers are enough to make a weak Saints secondary lose the game. I mean, Drew Brees is a fantastic quarterback. Team's been playing very well, but the way the Vikings are right now with those receivers dominating even elite defenses, I think this is going to be a very difficult matchup for the Saints.
I've honestly never, in my career of watching football, I don't know if you can call it a career, of my life of watching football, I don't think I've ever seen a receiver dominate to the first 7 weeks like Adam Thielen has.
Oh, certainly.
Over 100 yards every game. It seems like every time I turn the television on, he's catching it. It's like ridiculous. Every time he's getting the ball, it's like every other
like
play.
A video game out there.
It's literally like he's playing Madden. Exactly. But I do think that Marshawn Lattimore is going to be able to contain, not stop, contain / control Adam Thielen a little bit. I like him. He's a good secondary corner in his second year out of Ohio State for the Saints. But ultimately, I think that you can slow down Adam Thielen all you want.
Yeah.
On the other side of the ball, who's going to stop Stephon Diggs?
No, that's a good point. You know, a lot of the times when you have more than one weapon on offense, it leads to double teams. It leads to open receivers. And if they can catch the ball, they're going to do damage.
So you're taking Vikings in this game?
Vikings 100%.
I think I'm going to have to go with the Saints, not going to lie. I like the Saints this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be a shootout, as well as just like the Packers-Rams game. And I think that the Saints have more firepower on the offensive side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see Kirk Cousins kind of
choking a little bit
under the pressure and the spotlight.
Yeah.
He's never been a big game quarterback.
Well, we will see.
We'll have to find out Sunday night, 8:20 NBC. Tune in. Flipping sides a little bit, sticking with the NFL, but going over a little bit of news that has happened over the past couple weeks. Amari Cooper shipped off to Dallas for a first-round pick from Oakland. Many people do not like the trade. Think they gave up too much. Brendan, what are your thoughts on it?
A horrible trade. You know, we've seen a really steep decline in Cooper's play. Cooper, really, even when he was considered to be a good player, you know, the over 1,000 yards, the 5 touchdowns, even then I saw flaws in his game. And a lot of people are going to disagree with me. But when you look at him on film, and I follow the drafts a lot, so around his draft class is when I really started following it. And I just see him as kind of off a step, really slow, a little undersized even. I just, there's something about the way he plays that I just never see him as an elite receiver in this league.
Do you think the fact that he's a step low may have to do with the fact that he doesn't want to play in Oakland and he doesn't have a desire to play under the John Gruden system?
If that's the case, that's even worse, in my opinion. If it has to do with an attitude problem versus talent, he's not even contributing to his cause at that point. I'd rather him go out there and not catch a single ball, but be trying his hardest on every play. It's just
because you've seen the receiver he can be. His first 2 years in the NFL, over 1,000 yards, 7+ TDs.
No, he was fantastic.
Another thing you have to add on to that was the Raiders were winning.
They were winning.
He's coming from a program in college in Alabama where he's not used to losing 10+ games a year.
Welcome to the NFL.
Exactly. It's a culture shock for him. He's young. He's less than 25 years old.
But Dallas is not, you know, you wanted to bring him somewhere that has a culture of winning. You wanted to give up a first-round pick. They better be so sure that he is ready to go and he's all in Dallas, because you cannot, in this day and age in the NFL, a first-round pick is a controllable 4-year starter on either side of the ball.
I would have to agree, but if your team is winning like Dallas expects them to be, I think that they're basically making it seem like first-round picks are expendable to them. Where if you get a guy like Amari Cooper for a first-rounder and he produces the way you expect him to, it's not really that much of an issue because you have a proven player already without having to have a risk or a gamble on a wide receiver in the first round.
The risk is the financial. I mean, you're paying him an absorbent amount of money when you could be paying a team-controlled player, you know, a lot below market value. And now you're paying top of the tier for a receiver who hasn't been performing like that the past 2 years. So you're really taking a chance. I mean, if it was a second-round pick, I'd say it's win-win. You know, a second-round pick is still valuable. It's still a potential starter. You're still paying them less. And then if Cooper doesn't pan out, it's like, okay, you know, we gave up a second-round pick, but this is too risky. You know, Oakland, in my opinion, 1,000% won this trade.
I would have to agree with winning the trade, but at the end of the day, the value is there for Amari Cooper. He's an incredible talent. I like what Dallas did going out and getting him, but I do not agree with the price they gave to get Amari Cooper.
That's fair.
Moving on, there's a team in New York having a fire sale, and surprisingly, it's not the New York Jets. The New York Giants have shipped off Eli Apple to the New Orleans Saints who we were just talking about before, maybe matched up with Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, he's been. I mean, they're lucky they even got what they got
They
for
got
him.
a fifth and a seventh for him.
They're lucky they even got
First
that.
round pick from 2016.
He is just
arguably a bust.
Miserable. He is. I mean, if he was a third round pick, I'd say okay. You know, that's the kind of vibe I get from him. When you pick a corner in the first round, you expect them to be able to play. You expect them to not be a liability out there. And there were weeks that Eli Apple just looked horrible.
I have to agree with that. I've watched a lot of Giants games throughout my lifetime and throughout Eli Apple's career.
And your career too.
Yeah, my career as well. And I would have to say that there's not been one time where I turned the TV on and Eli Apple's making a good play. He's probably one of the worst cornerbacks I've ever seen step onto a football field.
It doesn't stick out.
And I've watched a lot of bad Jets teams.
Yeah.
Like D. Milliner, he's probably on D. Milliner level.
Jeez. D. Milliner was just horrendous.
Another guy on the Giants' offensive side who was shipped out, who is one of my favorite players in the NFL, former New York Jet, Damon Snacks Harrison.
Good for Snacks.
Sent off to the Lions for a 5th round draft pick.
Good for Snacks. You know, Snacks is going to be appreciated more in Detroit. He'll be with a team that could potentially start winning, and if not this year, you know, next year. You know, Matt Patricia, I still believe in him as a coach. I think he's a good coach, and I think, you know, when you have a defensive player like that, if he likes Detroit, I mean, you know what? I think it's going to be a good situation for him.
I definitely agree that it's going to be a good situation for him. It makes sense, I guess, for the Giants to ship him off. I mean,
definitely.
Get an extra pick for the next year's
Save
draft.
some
You're
money.
in a rebuilding mode. He has a large contract, larger than normal and regular defensive tackles.
Yeah.
He definitely deserves that kind of money, but it's just something the Giants didn't feel the need that they needed anymore. I figured the Giants are tanking and they're trying to figure out what they can get for certain players and how often they can get it. You know what I mean?
So if we had to make a prediction right now, where would you say the Giants are going to go in the 2019 draft? You think they're going to get a quarterback?
I mean, they missed their opportunity to get a quarterback this year.
They did.
They definitely should have taken one of the guys this year instead of taking Barkley. No disrespect to Saquon Barkley.
Great player, but you
Great
got to have a
player.
quarterback.
Pro Bowl caliber, all pro kind of guy. But this league is a quarterback league.
Yeah.
And in the 2019 draft, I feel like it's not as deep as the 2018 draft was quarterback wise.
There's only two guys who stick
And
out.
I heard the kid from Oregon,
Justin Herbert.
he's going to stay for his senior year.
He's thinking about it. I don't know if it's official.
I heard he's leaning more towards staying for senior year. So then at that point, if the Giants do end up having a top 3
you
pick,
just have Drew Lock.
Exactly. And I don't see him being a franchise caliber guy
Drew
in
Lock
the NFL.
last year was considered a 3rd round pick.
And I could see the Giants reaching for a quarterback
I could
and
see
setting
it too.
themselves 5 years back down
With
the
some
line.
pressure. You know, they really got to approach this situation cautiously. You know, they have Kyle Lauletta. I'm not saying he's the future. I'm not even saying he's anything close to that. What I am saying is, though, if Eli were to decide to pack it in after this year, you got to sign a bridge quarterback similar to what the Jets did with McCown, play a year out, you know, start rebuilding and wait for maybe the 2020 draft when Justin Herbert becomes available.
So you're saying that if a Nick Bosa is on the board, the Giants go out and grab him?
Yes, you go talent before you reach for a quarterback. You know,
Best player available strategy?
Yeah, because if your guy's not there, what do you like you said, you're going to set yourself back 5 years and then spend all this money around him to be a bust. In this league, you can't do it. If they want Herbert and they know they want Justin Herbert and they think they can get him in 2020, let's take a chance. And if you're not on the board when he's there, trade up for him.
Yeah. That about wraps up our show for today. Thank you for tuning in to Sports Universe again.
Thank you.
Alongside Brendan Exseed, I'm Jack Osterloff signing off. We'll see you next week.